Hey guys, tonight we aren't exploring a haunted location or a well-known legend. Tonight, the haunting comes to you. We're going to delve into an experience that blurs the line between memory and media, between a forgotten object and the secrets you keep locked inside your own mind. Imagine finding a piece of lost media, something so obscure it feels like it was waiting just for you. A dusty VHS tape of a children's puppet show from a bygone era, all felt and googly eyes and saccharine smiles. But when you press play, it's not the show that watches you, it's the puppets. And they start to whisper. They whisper about you. It's a story that forces us to question if certain objects are just containers for data, or if they can become vessels for something far more intrusive, something that learns. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see how far these whispers travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It begins on an ordinary day, the kind of gray, drizzly afternoon that smudges the edges of the hours together, where boredom isn't just a feeling but a thick, atmospheric pressure. This is the kind of day that leads you to places you wouldn't normally go. For you, it's a thrift store on the forgotten edge of town. A cavernous building with a leaky roof and a smell you can't quite place, a combination of mothballs, yellowed paper, and the faint metallic scent of decay. You're not looking for anything in particular. That's the magic of these places, isn't it? You're not a shopper. You're an archaeologist, sifting through the sediment of other people's lives. You drift past racks of faded floral dresses, shelves of mismatched china, and teetering towers of board games with missing pieces. Each object is a silent testament to a life, a choice, a moment of letting go. Your fingers trail along a shelf crammed with books, their spines soft and peeling. You're about to turn and leave, the oppressive quiet of the place finally getting to you, when you see it. Tucked away behind a stack of James Patterson paperbacks and a collection of 90s action movies is a bin overflowing with VHS tapes. The sight triggers a faint, pleasant hum of nostalgia. You remember the satisfying clunk of a tape sliding into the VCR, the whir of it rewinding, the snowy static that preceded the feature presentation. You kneel, your knees cracking in protest, and begin to idly flip through the plastic cases. Speed, Mrs. Doubtfire, a home movie of a wedding, labeled in shaky Sharpie. And then your fingers stop. They stop on a case that feels different. The plastic is slightly thicker, the edges sharper. There's no studio logo, no glossy promotional imagery. The cover is a piece of sun-bleached cardboard, hand-drawn. At the top, in bubbly, childlike letters, are the words, "The Happyfield Friends, Episode 3, Sharing is Caring." Below the title are the puppets. There are 3 of them, posed against a crudely painted backdrop of a bright yellow sun and impossibly green hills. One is a portly bear with mismatched button eyes, one black, one a milky blue. Another is a lanky rabbit with long, floppy ears, one of which has a visible tear near the base, clumsily stitched up with black thread. The third is an owl with glasses perched on its beak, its felt feathers looking matted and dark. They're meant to be charming, friendly, but as you stare at them, a sense of profound unease settles over you. Their painted-on smiles don't reach their glassy eyes. They look less like joyful characters and more like specimens pinned to a board, their expressions frozen in a permanent, silent scream. There's a strange documented phenomenon with old analog media, particularly magnetic tape. It's called print-through. It's when the magnetic signal from one layer of tape imprints a faint, ghostly echo of itself onto the adjacent layers. It's why sometimes, on old audio recordings, you can hear a faint, preemptive whisper of what's about to be said. It's a mechanical ghost, a simple flaw in the technology. Most people write it off as that, but the theory has been extended by paranormal researchers who suggest that magnetic tape, by its very nature, is susceptible to imprinting more than just audio signals. They believe it can record strong emotional states, psychic energy, a residue of a moment, a kind of inorganic memory. You're not thinking of this as you hold the tape, of course. You're just captivated by its strangeness. This is the thrill of the hunt, isn't it? That peculiar human desire to find something forgotten, to rescue it from oblivion. It's a small act of reclamation. You take a piece of the past and make it yours. You feel that now. A sense of possessiveness. This tape, with its unsettling cover and its unknown origins, feels like a secret meant only for you. You stand up, your decision made. You walk to the front counter, where a tired-looking woman rings you up without even looking at the case. It costs you $1, a single dollar for an object that feels ancient, that feels heavy. Not physically, but existentially. As you walk back to your car, the drizzle turning into a steady rain, you can't help but wonder about its journey. Who made this? How many children watched it? And why did it end up here, in this mausoleum of forgotten things? The question lingers, haunting the edges of your thoughts. Do objects retain a memory of their purpose? A car that was in a fatal accident, a bed where someone passed away, a child's toy that was loved and then cruelly abandoned. Do they just sit, inert and silent, or do they absorb the echoes of the lives they were a part of? In the growing quiet of 1,000 forgotten things, in the dusty darkness of a thrift store bin, what does an object like this tape become? Does it simply wait, dormant, for a new hand, a new machine, a new set of eyes? You place the tape on the passenger seat, and on the drive home, you keep glancing over at it. The happy, horrible faces of the Happyville friends seem to follow you, their stitched smiles promising a show you are beginning to feel on a deep and primal level you were never meant to see. The house is quiet when you get back, save for the rhythmic drumming of rain against the window panes. You place your keys in the ceramic bowl by the door, the clatter echoing in the stillness. That feeling of existential weight, the one you felt holding the tape in the store, hasn't left you. If anything, it's intensified, following you inside like a stray dog. You leave the tape on the kitchen counter while you make a cup of tea, the familiar ritual, a small anchor in a sea of growing strangeness. But your eyes keep flicking back to it. The cartoon bear's mismatched button eyes seem to watch you, its stitched smile a rictus of silent knowledge. You know what you have to do. You know you won't be able to rest until you see what's on it. The problem, of course, is that you haven't owned a VCR in at least 15 years. A quick search in the attic, a place of dust motes dancing in the single beam of your phone's flashlight, yields results. There it is, tucked under a box of old college textbooks, a bulky black VCR, heavy as a cinder block. You haul it downstairs, sneezing from the dust, and begin the slightly comical, slightly frustrating process of connecting it to your modern, flat-screen television. It feels like performing a strange technological seance, trying to bridge the gap between two vastly different eras of media consumption, red cable to red, yellow to yellow, white to white. You plug it in, and the small digital clock on its face flickers to life, blinking a perpetual, incorrect 12 o'clock, a time out of time. You take a breath, retrieve the tape from the counter, and feel the satisfying, solid thunk as you push it into the machine. The VCR whirs, it groans, it swallows the tape. You switch your TV's input to AV, and the screen dissolves into a blizzard of roiling static, accompanied by a loud, aggressive hiss. You press play. The static sharpens for a moment, then gives way to a shaky, hand-painted title card, The Happyville Friends. The colors bleed at the edges, the image swimming slightly, a hallmark of degraded analog tape. A jaunty, tinny tune played on a cheap synthesizer begins, and the show starts. The set is exactly as crude as the cover suggested. The puppets Barnaby Bear, Ricky Rabbit, and Professor Hooter operated from below. Their movements a little too frantic, a little too jerky. Their voices are high and cloying, performed by a single person attempting, not entirely successfully, to sound like three distinct characters. The episode is, as promised, about sharing. Ricky Rabbit has found a single red apple and doesn't want to share it with his friends. It's simple, moralizing fare, the kind of television designed to pacify and mildly educate. And yet, you can't relax. You're leaning forward, your tea forgotten, your entire body tense. Because underneath the cheerful dialogue, there's something else. At first, it's almost imperceptible. A low-frequency hum, a faint crackle in the audio. You dismiss it as a product of the tape's age. It's a dollar store find, after all, probably stored in a damp garage for 30 years. This is the audio equivalent of a faded photograph. But the sound isn't consistent. It seems to swell in the pauses, in the brief moments of silence between the puppet's lines. It's not just a hiss, it's textured. It has a cadence. It sounds like a whisper. You turn up the volume. The puppet's voices become shrill, almost painful. But now the sound underneath is clearer, a sibilant rush of air, like someone murmuring just out of range of the microphone. You can't make out any words, but it's undeniably there. A ghost in the magnetic machine. This is where we touch upon the well-documented world of electronic voice phenomena, or EVP. For decades, paranormal investigators have used recording devices in supposedly haunted locations, leaving them running in empty rooms. Upon playback, they often report hearing voices that weren't present during the recording. These voices are often faint, whispering, and seem to answer questions or comment on the investigator's presence. Skeptics attribute this to auditory pareidolia, brain's tendency to find patterns in random noisy or simple radio interference. But for believers, it's proof that the barrier between our world and another can be thinned, and that simple electronic devices can become conduits. They believe the energy of a spirit can directly manipulate the magnetic field of the tape or the digital sensor, leaving its vocal imprint behind. There's an old, unverified story from a man who worked as a sound engineer for a small AM radio station in rural Oregon in the late 70s. He said that sometimes, during the dead air between the end of a broadcast day and the static-filled night, he would hear things, not on the main channels, but in the hum of the equipment itself. He described faint, conversational whispers that would rise and fall, just on the edge of hearing. The station manager told him it was just signal bounce from distant stations, but the engineer swore it was different. It sounded close, intimate. He said it felt like listening to people having a quiet, serious conversation in the next room, but there was no next room. The other staff just called it the static bleed, a quirk of their old equipment. But he quit after he heard a woman's voice whisper his name, clear as day, during a 3-second gap between a gospel song and a farm report. You are not hearing your name, not yet, but the feeling is the same. The feeling of an intimate sound where none should be. The show on the screen has become secondary, a noisy distraction from the real event. You are focused entirely on the negative space, on the silence. Ricky Rabbit has a change of heart. He decides to share his apple. The music swells, but just as he's about to speak his happy, reformed line, he pauses. His felt mouth hangs open. And in that 2-second pause, the whisper is there again. It's louder this time, sharper. It's still not a word you can understand, but it has an inflection. It sounds questioning. You rewind the tape. The VCR shrieks in protest. You play it again. The cheerful music, the pause, the whisper. It's there. It's really there. Is it just a flaw in the master recording? A stray signal picked up by a cheap microphone 30 years ago? Or is it something else? Is your brain, desperate for a mystery, simply inventing a ghost in the noise? Or have you, in the rainy gray quiet of your home, stumbled upon a conversation you were never meant to overhear? The tape plays on, but you're no longer watching. You're just listening to the static between the words. The episode ends. The jaunty synth music returns, playing over a shaky, hand-scrawled credits list that's almost completely illegible. The screen dissolves back into the roiling, angry static. The show is over, but the feeling it has left behind is not one of closure. It's a gnawing, anxious curiosity. The whispers, were they real? You eject the tape, the VCR spitting it out with a clunk. You hold it in your hand, this cheap plastic artifact, and it feels different now, heavier. It's no longer just a curious thrift store find. It's a puzzle box. A locked room mystery recorded on magnetic tape. You stand there in the quiet living room, the only sound the hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen, and you know you can't leave it alone. The rational part of your brain is offering up a dozen explanations. Audio bleed, damaged tape, auditory pareidolia. But the other part of your mind, the part that responds to the creak of a floorboard in an empty house, is not convinced. You decide to watch it again. Not the whole thing, just the one part, the pause. You slide the tape back in, fast-forwarding, watching the jerky, colorful blur of the puppets zip across the screen. You slow it down, find the spot right before Ricky Rabbit's change of heart. You take a deep breath. You press play. He gives his little speech about how friends are more important than apples. He holds out the fruit, and then he pauses, his stitched mouth agape. You lean in close to the television speaker. So close you can feel the faint vibration against your ear. The hiss of the static rises, and then, for a split second, it coalesces. It sharpens. And it speaks. It's not just a sound this time. It's a word. Or, no, a phrase. 2 words, whispered in a dry, rasping voice that seems impossibly old, impossibly close. And the words are, the blue car. You recoil from the speaker as if you've been burned. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic, trapped bird. The blue car. It means nothing. It's gibberish. A random vocal fragment caught on the tape. It has to be. But your mind is already racing, flipping through the dusty, forgotten archives of your own life. And then it lands on a memory. A memory you haven't consciously accessed in decades. You are 7 years old. You're playing in your friend's backyard. His name was Michael. He had a brand new toy car, a die-cast model, a brilliant metallic blue. You wanted it. You wanted it with a fierce, childish covetousness that felt like hunger. While Michael was inside getting juice, you took it. You slipped it into the pocket of your shorts, the cool metal a heavy, guilty weight against your leg. When he came back out, he couldn't find it. He was frantic. He started to cry. His mom came out. You stood there, your face a perfect mask of innocence, and helped him look for it, even as you could feel its sharp edges digging into your skin. You let him cry. You never told him. You never told anyone. The next day, you buried the car in the woods behind your house, unable to play with it, unable to look at it. The memory floods back with sickening clarity, the smell of the freshly cut grass, the sight of Michael's face, red and blotchy with tears, the feeling of the lie, hot and heavy in your throat. And the 2 words that echo from the television are a perfect, chilling key, turning the lock on that forgotten room in your mind. The blue car. It's impossible. It is utterly, fundamentally impossible. It's not just a random phrase. It's a specific detail from a secret you've kept for your entire life. A secret so old and so buried, even you had forgotten it was there. This isn't a technological glitch. This isn't a random radio signal. How could a puppet on a 30-year-old VHS tape know your oldest, most trivial, most deeply buried lie? This specific, impossible knowledge connects to a very particular subset of paranormal accounts cases where a haunting seems deeply, personally tailored to the individual. There's a classic, if hard to verify, anecdote from the early days of spirit photography in the late 19th century. A wealthy industrialist, a skeptic, agreed to sit for a session with a famed medium. He was convinced it was all trickery. When the photographic plate was developed, it showed the faint, superimposed image of a young woman standing behind him. The industrialist allegedly turned pale and left without a word. The medium assumed it was a spirit known to him, perhaps a deceased relative. But years later, after the industrialist's death, his private journals were found. In them, he wrote of a secret love affair he'd had as a young man with a housemaid. He'd promised to marry her but had instead abandoned her when he was betrothed to a woman of his own class. The maid, heartbroken, had taken her own life. He had never told a soul. The photograph didn't just show a random ghost. It showed his ghost. It showed his guilt. You're staring at the television screen, which has returned to its churning sea of static. The hiss sounds different now. It no longer sounds random. It sounds like it's full of whispers, just waiting for the right moment to resolve into words. A deep, unsettling psychological reaction begins to take root in you. It's a very specific kind of fear, one born not of a physical threat, but of an epistemological one. Your understanding of the world, of cause and effect, of the privacy of your own mind, has just been shattered. The most private space you have, the landscape of your own memory, has been trespassed. Something has reached across time and space, through a forgotten piece of media, and plucked a secret from your head. The question that arises from this is terrifying in its implications. Is the supernatural a universal force, or is it a personal one? Does a ghost haunt a house, or does it haunt the people in the house, drawing on their own histories, their own fears, their own guilt? Are these phenomena external events, or are they somehow generated, or at least shaped, by our own consciousness? The tape is no longer a passive object. It feels active, predatory even. It feels like it's watching you, listening to you, sifting through you. The puppet's frozen smiles now seem deeply, horrifyingly intelligent. They're not just characters in a show. They're gatekeepers, wardens of a library of secrets, and they just read you the first sentence from your own book. You look from the VCR to the static on the screen, and a cold dread washes over you as you realize the show isn't over. It's just begun, and the next secret they choose to whisper might not be from so long ago. The world outside your living room window has gone dark. The rain has stopped, but the silence it leaves behind feels heavy, charged. You haven't moved. You're still sitting on the floor, the glow of the static-filled screen casting a flickering, monochrome light on your face. The two words, "the blue car," are replaying in your mind on a loop, a psychic echo that refuses to fade. It's one thing to hear a bump in the night, or see a shadow move in your peripheral vision. The mind can explain those things away. It's a defense mechanism, a way of maintaining the sturdy walls of reality. But this is different. This is a direct verbal confirmation of the impossible. The tape didn't just make a noise, it spoke a piece of your history, a piece you had sealed away. This is the moment the seed of paranoia is planted. It's a tiny, insidious thing, but it finds fertile ground in the rich soil of fear and confusion. Your first instinct is denial's angry cousin, disbelief. You must have misheard it. It's a coincidence, a trick of the light, or in this case, a trick of the sound. You grab the remote, your hand trembling slightly, and your thumb hovers over the rewind button. Part of you, a primal, self-preservationist part, is screaming at you to stop, to eject the tape, take it outside, and smash it into 1,000 pieces. But the other part, the part that needs to know, that can't let the mystery lie, is stronger. You have to be sure. You have to prove yourself wrong. You rewind the tape. The whirring sound of the VCR is unnaturally loud in the silent house. It sounds like a dentist's drill, promising a precise, clinical kind of pain. You press play. The scene unfolds again. Barnaby Bear, Ricky Rabbit, the bright red apple, the cheerful, grating voices. You brace yourself. The pause comes. You lean in again, your ear almost touching the speaker, every muscle in your body tensed. The hiss rises, and the whisper comes through, clear as a bell in the dead air. The blue car. It's not fainter, it's not different, it's exactly the same. An identical, perfect replication of the impossible. The seed of paranoia sprouts. It's real. You are not mishearing it. You are not imagining it. It's on the tape. You do it again, and again, and again. You become a man possessed, locked in a bizarre, ritualistic loop with a 30-year-old piece of plastic. Rewind, play, whisper. The words don't change, but your perception of them does. The first time it was a shock. The second, a confirmation. By the fifth or sixth time, it has become a taunt. The dry, rasping voice seems to be mocking you, enjoying your disbelief, your dawning terror. The puppets on the screen, frozen during the pause, become co-conspirators. Ricky Rabbit's wide, innocent eyes seem to hold a glint of malice. Barnaby Bear's stitched smile seems to widen just a fraction. Professor Hoot's glasses seem to be staring directly at you, through the screen, through the years. They know you're listening. They know what you're hearing. And they know it's for you. This kind of obsessive re-examination of an anomalous event is a well-documented human reaction to the paranormal. It's a desperate attempt to reassert control over a situation that defies logical control. There's an account from a family in Ohio in the 1980s who claimed their new video camera was capturing strange anomalies. In one recording of their daughter's birthday party, as the camera panned across an empty corner of the room, a shadowy, human-like figure could be seen for just a few frames. The father, a practical man, spent an entire weekend replaying those few seconds of tape over and over again on his VCR. He tried to debunk it, looking for tricks of the light, reflections, anything. His wife wrote later that he barely ate or slept. He would just sit in the darkened living room, the whir and click of the VCR, the only sounds, as he played the ghostly moment forward and in slow motion, again and again. As if by sheer force of will he could make the shadow disappear or resolve into something mundane. He couldn't. The experience, she said, didn't make him a believer in ghosts, but it broke his belief in a stable, predictable reality. He became withdrawn, suspicious, constantly looking for flaws in the world around him. The psychological impact on you is immediate and profound. The cozy, safe feeling of your own home has evaporated. You feel exposed, vulnerable. Every shadow in the corner of the room looks a little deeper. Every creak of the house settling sounds like a footstep. Your home is no longer a sanctuary. It's a theater for this impossible performance. The paranoia begins to latch onto other things. The tape, where did it come from? Who owned it before you? Did they hear the whispers too? Is that why they got rid of it? You picture someone else, years ago, sitting in a dark room just like this one, locked in the same terrifying loop, before finally deciding they couldn't take it anymore and abandoning the tape at a thrift store, passing the curse on to the next unsuspecting person. To you, the central question you're grappling with now is one of agency. Who is the agent of this phenomenon? Is it the tape itself, an object somehow imbued with a malevolent consciousness? Is it the puppets, figments of felt and glue that have somehow become conduits for something? Or is it something tied to the original recording, a spirit or an energy trapped in that moment, in that studio all those years ago? Or, and this is the most terrifying thought, is the agent you? Is your own mind, your own guilt, somehow interacting with the random noise on the tape and projecting your secrets onto it? Are you the haunted and the haunter, all at once? The lines blur. The certainties of your world are dissolving like salt in water. You finally pull yourself away from the television, your legs stiff from sitting on the floor for so long. You eject the tape, but you don't put it away. You place it on the coffee table, in the center of the room. You can't bring yourself to touch it again, but you can't bring yourself to put it out of sight either. It sits there, a black plastic rectangle, inert and silent, but you know it isn't. It's listening. It's waiting. And you know, with a sick, cold certainty, that you are going to play it again. The next day, you wake up feeling like you haven't slept at all. The memory of the whisper, the cold, clinical certainty of it, has permeated your dreams, turning them into anxious, disjointed narratives. The tape is still on the coffee table where you left it, a dark monolith in the morning light. It feels like a threat. You make coffee, your movements automated, your mind elsewhere. The paranoia that took root last night has survived the dawn. In fact, in the clear light of day, it feels even more potent, more absurd. The world outside is normal. People are going to work. Dogs are being walked, but your own private reality has been fundamentally altered. You know you can't simply let this go. The need to understand, to find a rational container for this irrational experience, is overwhelming. You decide to put aside the supernatural for a moment and focus on the mundane. You will approach this as a researcher. The tape is a piece of lost media. The first step is to identify it. You sit down at your computer, coffee in hand, and begin to search. The name on the hand-drawn cover was the Happyfield Friends. You type it into the search bar, feeling a small, foolish flicker of hope that you'll find a Wikipedia page, a fan forum, a list of episodes. You press enter. The results are nothing, or rather, nothing relevant. You get results for a daycare in Florida called Happyville, a series of children's books with a similar name, a mobile game, but nothing about a puppet show. Nothing at all. You refine your search. You add puppet show, 80s, VHS. You try different combinations. Barnaby Bear Puppet, Ricky Rabbit Show, Professor Hoot. The results are a frustrating digital fog. You find hundreds of other obscure children's shows from that era, a testament to the boom of local access television and direct-to-video content. You see puppets you vaguely remember from your own childhood, their familiar felt faces a stark contrast to the unsettling visages of the Happyville friends. But of your tape, there is no mention. No production company listed on the credits you could barely read. No actors' names, no broadcast history. It's a digital ghost. As far as the internet is concerned, the Happyville Friends does not exist. This deepens the mystery in a profoundly unsettling way. It's one thing to find an obscure show, but it's another thing entirely to find one that has left no trace, no digital footprint whatsoever. It's as if it was created in a vacuum and then vanished, with your copy being the sole surviving artifact. This phenomenon is known to lost media hunters as phantom media or non-existent media. These are pieces of media that people vividly remember, sometimes in great detail, but for which no physical or digital evidence can be found. The most famous example is probably Shazam, a 90s movie that thousands of people swear they remember, starring the comedian Sinbad as a genie. Despite the widespread detailed memories, no record of the film's existence has ever been found. Sinbad himself has denied ever making it. Most experts attribute this to the Mandela effect, a form of collective false memory, or the conflation of similar movies. But you have the tape, you have the physical evidence. This isn't a false memory. It's a real object with no history. The lack of information forces you to focus on the puppets themselves. You go back to the living room and pick up the VHS case, studying the hand-drawn cover again. The puppets, there is something deeply wrong with them. It's not just the crude design. You look closer at Barnaby Bear. His mismatched eyes aren't just different colors. One is a standard, shiny black plastic button, the kind you'd find in any sewing kit. The other, the milky blue one, looks older. It looks like a doll's eye, made of glass, and it has a network of fine cracks running through it. And Ricky Rabbit's torn ear. The black thread used to stitch it up is thick, almost like twine. The stitches are clumsy, ugly, and tight, pulling the felt in a way that gives the rabbit a permanent, pained sneer. They don't look like puppets made by a professional. They look like they were cobbled together from discarded things, broken things. There is a strange, niche corner of folklore that deals with objects made from multiple, disparate sources. It's related to the concept of the homunculus in alchemy, or the golem in Jewish folklore, creation of a being from inanimate matter. One particularly unsettling legend from the Appalachian Mountains tells of memory dolls, or soul dolls. These were not toys. They were effigies created by rural folk healers, cobbled together from the personal effects of a deceased persona, scrap of their dress, a lock of their hair, a button from their coat. The belief was that the doll would house a fragment of the person's spirit, allowing the living to commune with them or seek their guidance. But the legends always came with a warning: never use pieces from more than one person. To do so would be to create a confused, tormented vessel, a chorus of dissonant voices trapped in a single form. Staring at the puppets, this thought sends a fresh chill down your spine. They look exactly like that, like amalgams of forgotten, broken things. Is that why their whispers sound so strange? Are they speaking with one voice, or many? The absolute lack of online information makes the tape feel even more singular, more personal. It wasn't broadcast to millions. Maybe it was never broadcast at all. Maybe it was made for an audience of one. The question of its origin becomes a gaping void. Who would make something like this? A loving parent for their child? It seems too shoddy, too unsettling for that. An amateur filmmaker with more ambition than talent, perhaps. But then, Where did they get the puppets? And why is there no record of their work anywhere? The search has failed. Instead of providing answers, it has only deepened the mystery, stripping away any hope of a conventional explanation. The tape is not a commercial product. It's an anomaly, an orphan. Its existence is a secret, just like the ones it whispers. You are completely on your own with this. There is no community to turn to, no forum of fellow fans who can say, "Oh yeah, the audio on those old tapes was always weird." There is only you, the tape, and the silence in between. You look from your blank computer screen back to the VHS case in your hands. The puppets stare back, their expressions unchanging. They have no history. They have no origin. All they have are your secrets. And you have a terrible feeling you're about to hear another one. A week passes, a strange, tense week where the VHS tape sits on your media console like an unexploded bomb. You try to live normally. You go to work, you talk to friends, you watch other shows. But it's always there, at the back of your mind, a low-level hum of anxiety. You find yourself becoming more secretive, more withdrawn. If the tape knows about the blue car, what else does it know? The thought makes you feel transparent, as if the dark, messy corners of your mind are suddenly visible to the world. You start reevaluating every past mistake, every embarrassing moment, every selfish act. Your own memory becomes a minefield, and you are terrified of where the next explosion will come from. The silence in your home is the worst part. It feels charged, expectant. You start leaving a fan on or playing quiet music constantly, just to fill the dead air where the whispers might breed. But the silence, as they say, always wins. It's a Friday night, you're alone. The temptation, the horrible magnetic pull of the tape becomes too much to bear. It's a form of self-flagellation. You need to know. You need to know the extent of its knowledge. It's better to face the monster than to live in fear of what it might do. With a sense of grim resignation, you retrieve the tape, slide it into the VCR, and press play. The familiar tinny music starts. The crude set, the jerky puppets. This time, you don't fast forward. You watch the entire episode, your senses on high alert. You're listening not to the dialogue, but to the spaces between it. The low, sibilant hiss is there, a constant undercurrent. It's like listening to a seashell, but instead of the ocean, you hear the sound of a dead secret. The show plays out. The moral about sharing is delivered. The episode should be ending, but it doesn't. After the credits, which you now watch with an eagle eye, trying to decipher any of the blurry names, the screen doesn't cut to static. It fades to black. For a full 10 seconds, there is nothing but a dark screen and the low hum of the VCR. You think maybe the tape has finally ended. But then, a single puppet fades into view. It's Barnaby Bear, his mismatched eyes seeming to bore right into you. He is perfectly still. There is no background, just the bear against an inky blackness. The jaunty music is gone. There is only silence, a deep, profound silence that is more terrifying than any noise. Then, the whisper comes. It's the same dry, rasping voice, but it's clearer now, slower, more deliberate. It's not just a fragment of a phrase, it's a full sentence. And it says, "You told Sarah you were sick." The words hang in the air, cold and sharp, and your blood runs cold. Sarah, last month, you were supposed to go to her birthday party. A gathering at a loud, crowded bar. You had a terrible week at work. You were exhausted. You were feeling antisocial. You just didn't want to go. So you texted her. You told her you thought you were coming down with something, a stomach bug, and that you didn't want to risk getting anyone else sick. You told her you were so sorry to miss it. It was a lie. A simple, harmless, social lie. You spent the evening on your couch, watching a movie, feeling a mixture of relief and guilt, a secret known only to you, a recent secret. This shatters your last remaining hope of a rational explanation. The blue car incident was from your deep past. You could, if you stretched logic to its breaking point, entertain the bizarre notion that you had somehow talked in your sleep, or told the secret to someone who told someone else, and through a chain of cosmic coincidence, It ended up as a random audio fragment on this tape. But this happened last month. The tape was already in your possession. You had already watched it once. This isn't a pre-recorded message from the past. This is new. This is active. The tape, it's learning, or it's updating, or it's connected to you in some way that defies all known laws of physics. This chilling escalation mirrors a particular type of poltergeist account, one that paranormal researchers refer to as a responsive haunting. Most hauntings are like loops, replaying a past event over and over. A spirit walks down the same hallway every night. A cry is heard at the same time. But a responsive haunting is different. It interacts with the living. It answers questions. It responds to actions. There's a famous case from the 1970s in a small house in Enfield, England. The Hodgson family was terrorized by a force that threw furniture, started fires, and, most terrifyingly, spoke. It spoke through the family's young daughter, Janet. Recordings from the time capture a deep, gravelly voice, claiming to be a man named Bill Wilkins who had died in the house. The voice would answer questions from investigators, tell jokes, and curse at them. Whether a hoax or a genuine phenomenon, the core of the terror was its interactive nature. It wasn't just a ghost. It was a personality. It was a presence that was aware of its audience. The psychological impact of this new revelation is devastating. Your guilt is no longer a private internal state. It feels like an open wound that this thing can poke at will. You are no longer just a viewer. You are a participant in a deeply personal, deeply cruel performance. The puppets are not just whispering secrets. They are passing judgment. The lie about being sick wasn't a terrible crime. It was a moment of social weakness. But in the stark, silent judgment of Barnaby Bear, it feels like a profound moral failing. You feel a hot flush of shame. The same shame you felt when you texted that lie to your friend. But it's amplified, reflected back at you from this impossible source. What is the mechanism here? That is the unanswerable question that screams in your mind. How can a magnetic tape, a relic from the 80s, know about a text message you sent last month? Does it have access to your thoughts, your memories, your phone? The paranoia deepens, becomes technological. You glance at your phone, sitting on the table beside you. It suddenly looks alien, a potential spy in your pocket. You think about your smart speaker, your laptop. Are all these devices conduits? Have you built a prison of convenient technology that is now being used against you by something ancient and unknowable? Or is the explanation something far older, something that requires no technology at all? Is it simple, old-fashioned telepathy? A direct mind-to-mind link between you and whatever intelligence resides in the tape? The bear stays on the screen for another minute, its button eyes unblinking, its silence a heavy blanket. Then it fades to black, and the tape finally, mercifully, clicks to a stop. You don't rewind it this time, there's no need. The words are burned into your brain, the performance was flawless, and you know with a dread that tastes like metal that there will be another. The revelation of the second secret, the recent one, marks a significant shift in your investigation. The fear is still there, a constant, cold companion. But now, it's coupled with a desperate analytical need. You have to understand the context of this broadcast. The whispers are about you, but where are they coming from? Your attention, which had been focused on the puppets as the agents of the haunting, now shifts to the one human element of the show you had mostly ignored, the host. You rewind the tape, but this time you're not listening for whispers. You're watching him. His name, according to the barely legible credits, is Mr. Jim. Mr. Jim is a man who looks to be in his late 30s or early 40s. He has a mop of thinning brown hair, a slightly too neat mustache, and he wears a brightly colored cardigan over a button-down shirt. He is the very picture of a wholesome 80s children's show host. He introduces the show, interacts with the puppets, and closes with a gentle moral lesson. But as you watch him now, with this new, terrified clarity, you see something you didn't see before. You see the strain. His smile is a perfect, wide crescent, but it never, ever reaches his eyes. His eyes are wide, dark, and filled with a kind of frantic, pleading terror. They dart back and forth, not quite looking at the puppets, not quite looking at the camera, but looking somewhere just beyond them, into the darkness of the studio. His movements are stiff, his posture rigid. When he talks to the puppets, his hands are clasped tightly in front of him, his knuckles white. He's supposed to be the ringmaster of this happy little circus, but he looks like a hostage reading a script at gunpoint. There's a segment in the middle of the episode where he helps Barnaby Bear and Ricky Rabbit resolve their conflict over the apple. He places a hand on each of their felt heads. As you watch in slow motion, you see his hand tremble. A fine, almost imperceptible tremor. It's the hand of a man under extreme duress. He is terrified of these things. He's not their friend. He's their prisoner. The camera work is crude, mostly static shots. But there's one moment where the camera pans, just for a second, and you see something in the reflection on Professor Hoot's glasses. It's distorted, a warped fisheye view, but it's there, a shape, a tall, thin silhouette standing in the shadows, just offset. It's there for only a handful of frames, a ghostly imprint on the lens. You rewind and play it again, pausing at the exact moment. It's just a smudge of darkness, but it's undeniably humanoid. It doesn't look like a crew member. It looks too still, too rigid. It looks like it's observing. This detail, this man in the seams of the show, recontextualizes everything. Mr. Jim isn't alone with the puppets. There's something else in the room with them. Something that is making him smile while his eyes scream. This connects to a chilling and specific type of historical account. Not from the paranormal world, but from the world of propaganda and coercion. Think of the forced confessions of prisoners of war. They would be put on camera, often looking well-fed and unharmed, and they would read a statement denouncing their own country and praising their captors. The words they spoke were a lie, but the real message was in their performance. It was in the flicker of their eyes, the slight hesitation in their voice, the way they would subtly break rhythm or use a prearranged code word, like blinking in Morse code. They were communicating a second, hidden narrative of terror and duress right under the noses of their captors. Mr. Jim feels like one of those prisoners. His hidden narrative is one of pure fear. A particularly human psychological reaction to witnessing someone else's subtle, non-verbalized distress is a profound sense of empathetic dread. It's a deeply unsettling feeling. You're not just scared for Mr. Jim. You begin to feel his fear, his trappedness. You're sitting in your safe living room decades later, but you feel a phantom sense of the oppressive, watchful silence of that studio. You feel the cold sweat on his brow, the desperate need to keep smiling, to keep reading the lines, because you don't know what will happen if you stop. His performance is no longer wholesome. It's a masterclass in suppressed panic. The whole show is a facade, a brightly colored cardboard wall built to hide a dark, terrifying room. The open question that emerges is one of control. Who is really in charge here? Are the puppets just props, manipulated by this unseen, shadowy figure? Or are the puppets the true source of the power, and the figure is just another one of its servants, or perhaps a physical manifestation of its will? And what about Mr. Jim? Was he a victim, chosen at random to host this nightmare show? Or was he involved somehow? Was he a willing participant who lost control of something he started? Did he create the puppets, only to have them turn on him, becoming the master of their own creator, like some felt and googly-eyed Frankenstein's monster? You stop the tape. The image of Mr. Jim's smiling, terrified face is seared into your brain. He's the key. The puppets are the weapon. The whispers are the ammunition. But he is the first victim. He's the patient zero of this haunting. The secrets they are telling you are your own, but the terror, you realize, began with him. The tape is not just a recording of a puppet show. It's the recording of a man's torment. He is trapped in that half-hour loop for eternity, forced to smile and play along with the things that terrified him. His silent scream for help, captured on degraded magnetic tape. Your quest is no longer just about understanding what the tape is and why it knows your secrets. Now, you have to find out what happened to Mr. Jim. You have to know how his story ends. You feel a strange sense of responsibility to him, this ghost in the machine. You have to uncover the truth, not just for your own sanity, but for his. Your investigation now has a new, desperate focus, finding Mr. Jim. But you have no last name. And the show itself, the Happyfield Friends, remains a ghost online. You're at a dead end. The tape sits on the console, a silent black box full of answers you can't access. The paranoia has burrowed deeper, becoming a part of your daily routine. You check over your shoulder when you're walking alone. You second-guess every white lie, every small selfish thought, wondering if it's being logged somewhere, queued up for the next chilling broadcast. You need a new lead, a different angle. If the show doesn't exist in the digital world, maybe it exists in the physical one, or at least, the memory of it does. You shift your search from the show to its potential location. It was a low-budget production, likely filmed at a local access television station. These small, independent studios were common in the 1980s, serving communities with a mix of town hall meetings, high school sports, and odd, homegrown programming. Most have since been shut down, absorbed by larger corporations, or simply abandoned. You begin to search for defunct television studios in your state, cross-referencing them with the general time period. The list is long and the work is tedious, a slow descent into a rabbit hole of municipal records and forgotten corporate histories. After days of fruitless searching, you find a promising, if unsettling, lead. It comes from a decade-old blog post on a local urban exploration forum. The post is titled, "The Silent Studio," and it describes an abandoned low-power television station on the industrial outskirts of a town about 2 hours' drive from you. The station, according to the post, was called WBRGLP, Channel 53, and it went off the air abruptly in late 1989. The building was sold to a plastics company that went bankrupt a few years later, and it has sat vacant ever since. The urban explorer who wrote the post describes the building as unbelievably creepy. He talks about the strange silence inside, how the thick sound, proofing on the studio walls seemed to swallow noise, creating a disorienting, pressurized feeling. But it's the comment section that makes your blood run cold. One commenter, writing a few years after the original post, adds a chilling piece of local lore. He says that when he was a kid living near the station in the late 80s, they had a nickname for Channel 53, the Whisper Station. He claims that sometimes, late at night, after the station was supposed to have signed off, the signal would come back on, but it wouldn't be a show. It would just be a black screen, and if you turned the volume all the way up, you could hear what sounded like faint, sibilant, whispering. No words, just the sound. Most parents dismissed it as signal interference or a prank by the station employees, but the kids were terrified of it. Another commenter adds to the legend, claiming that the station shut down because the owner had a complete nervous breakdown, claiming the building was full of voices, and that the things in the props closet were talking to him. He was institutionalized, and the station's assets were liquidated. This is it. It has to be. A silent studio, whispers on the airwaves, a props closet. It all fits. This local legend isn't just a ghost story. It feels like the suppressed history of your tape. The documented account of the station's sudden closure and the owner's breakdown provides a chillingly plausible backstory. This wasn't just a quirky local station. It was a place where something went deeply, psychologically wrong. The anecdotal stories from the commenters, the Whisper Station nickname, feel like the public-facing ripples of the private horror that was being recorded inside, the horror that you now hold a piece of. These types of location-based legends are fascinating. They often spring up around places of intense, negative human emotion prisons, asylums, battlefields. The theory of place memory, or residual haunting, suggests that stone, wood, and earth can absorb and store this energy, replaying it under certain conditions like a recording. The urban explorer's description of the silent studio is particularly potent. Soundproofed rooms are known to cause auditory hallucinations. In an anechoic chamber, a room designed to be completely silent, people report hearing the sound of their own circulatory and nervous systems. Some even hear phantom whispers or music. The brain, deprived of external stimuli, begins to create its own. But what if that studio wasn't just silent? What if it was a space that actively listened? What if the soundproofing wasn't just designed to keep sound out, but to keep something in? The psychological impact of this discovery is complex. On one hand, it's terrifying. It grounds the supernatural events of the tape in a real physical place, a place you could theoretically go to. It makes the threat feel more tangible. But on the other hand, it's also a relief. It means you are not the origin point of this haunting. You are not generating this out of your own guilt or madness. You are the recipient of an echo from a place that was already broken. You are the latest person to tune into the Whisper Station. The question that now consumes you is about the nature of the broadcast. If this entity, this whispering consciousness, was centered at that studio, how did it attach itself to the tape? Did a piece of it break off and get trapped in the magnetic oxide? Is the tape a vessel, carrying the malevolence of that place far beyond its physical walls? Or is it more like an antenna, a tuning fork, keyed to a specific, terrifying frequency that allows the entity from that silent studio to broadcast directly into your home, directly into your head, using your own memories as the content of the show? Is the tape haunted, or is it a tool that allows a haunted place to reach you? The distinction feels critically important. You look up the address of the abandoned studio from the forum post. It's there on the map, a small, forgotten building in a forgotten part of the state. You know you shouldn't even think about it. But the thought is there, a dark and compelling invitation to go to the source, to stand in the room where it all began, the room where Mr. Jim smiled his terrible, empty smile. The discovery of the silent studio changes the atmosphere in your home. The haunting no longer feels entirely contained within the plastic shell of the VHS tape. It feels bigger, more diffuse. The knowledge of its potential origin point has somehow given it permission to expand. At least, that's how it feels. It begins subtly. You're in the kitchen, washing dishes, the water running. And in the hiss and splash of the water, you hear it, a faint, sibilant whisper. You quickly shut off the faucet, your heart pounding, and listen. There's nothing but the dripping of the tap. You convince yourself it was your imagination, your mind playing tricks on you, primed by fear. Auditory pareidolia again. Your brain is just looking for patterns in the noise. But then, it happens again. A few nights later, you're lying in bed, on the edge of sleep. The only sound is the soft whir of the fan in the corner of the room. And woven into the steady, rhythmic sound of the blades cutting through the air, you hear it. It's clearer, this time. The distinct, dry, rasping texture of the voice from the tape. It's not speaking words. Not yet. It's just the sound of a voice, a presence, making itself known in the ambient noise of your life. You sit bolt upright in bed, your eyes scanning the shadows of your room. The sound is gone. There is only the fan. But you know what you heard. The whispers are no longer confined to the television. They are bleeding out into your world. This is a classic and terrifying escalation in haunting phenomena. It's the transition from a localized, object-based haunting to a more pervasive, personal one. The entity is no longer tied to the trigger object. It is now tied to you. This is often the point in paranormal accounts where the person experiencing the activity begins to question their own sanity. Are they really hearing these things? Or is the stress and fear causing them to have auditory hallucinations? There's an account from a woman in the 1990s who bought an antique music box at an estate sale. She claimed that after a few weeks, she started hearing the faint, tinny melody of the music box at odd times, even when it was closed and across the room. Then she started hearing it at work, in her car. She went to a doctor, convinced she had a brain tumor or some form of musical tinnitus. All the tests came back negative. She eventually got rid of the music box, but she claimed that for years afterward, in moments of extreme quiet, she could still sometimes hear the faint, phantom melody of its song. The most disturbing incident happens on a Saturday afternoon. You're in your study, trying to distract yourself with work. The house is completely quiet. No music, no fan, no television. And from the living room, you hear it, a single, clear whisper. It says your name. It's not from a speaker. It's not from a device. It sounds like someone is standing in the middle of your living room, right where you watch the tape, and has whispered your name into the empty air. You freeze, every muscle locked. It's the voice from the tape. There is no mistaking it. It's dry, ancient, and full of a cold, intimate knowledge. The sound is so real, so perfectly placed in the acoustics of your home, that for a terrifying moment you believe someone is actually there. You creep out of your study, your heart in your throat. The living room is empty. Sunlight streams through the windows. Everything is exactly as it should be. The VHS tape is sitting on the console, inert, but the echo of the whisper, the sound of your own name spoken by that horrible voice, is still ringing in your ears. The line has been crossed. This is no longer about a haunted object. You are being haunted. The whispers have followed you out of the television screen. The psychological impact is immense. You feel a profound sense of violation. Your home, your last refuge, has been breached. There is no safe space left. The entity is no longer waiting for you to press play. It can manifest whenever it wants. The silence you once craved is now your enemy, a blank canvas on which the whispers can paint. This forces you to confront a terrifying question about the nature of perception. When you hear a whisper in an empty room, what is actually happening? Is a physical sound wave being created from nothing? Is a spirit manipulating the air molecules to produce a sound you can hear with your ears? Or is the phenomenon entirely in your head? Is the entity bypassing your ears entirely and stimulating the auditory cortex of your brain directly? In a way, the second option is more terrifying. It implies a level of intimacy, of violation, that is almost incomprehensible. It means something can reach directly into your skull and make you hear things. There is no defense against that. You can't plug your ears. You can't leave the room. The haunting is inside you. The experience propels you into a state of heightened paranoia and dread. You can't trust your own senses. Every random creak, every gust of wind, every bit of white noise becomes a potential source of the next whisper. You feel constantly watched, constantly listened to. The entity from the silent studio is no longer a distant echo from the past. It is a present and active force in your life. It has your address, it has your name, and it has all of your secrets. The tape on the console now seems less like the source and more like the key, the thing that opened the door. And now that the door is open, you have no idea how to close it. You find yourself staring at the tape, not with curiosity anymore, but with a kind of desperate hatred. You are trapped in a call and response, and the other line is a ghost. A ghost that is getting stronger, louder, and closer with every passing day. The whispers in your house have become a new, terrible baseline for your life. You exist in a state of constant, low-grade dread, waiting for the next phantom sound, the next muttered word from an empty corner. Your research into the WBRG-LP station, the Silent Studio, has stalled. The Urban Exploration Forum is a decade old. The original posters long gone. There are no more public records to find. It feels like another dead end. You are isolated, trapped in this bizarre, terrifying feedback loop with the tape and the echoes it has unleashed. In a moment of desperation, you do something you hadn't thought to do before. You search not for the show's title, but for a description of the tape itself. You type in phrases like Haunted Puppet Show VHS, Whispering Puppets Tape, Creepy Old Kids Show. The search results are a predictable mess of internet horror stories and creepypasta. But you scroll page after page, fueled by a desperate hope, and then you find it. Buried deep on a defunct, bare-bones paranormal forum from the early 2000s, in a thread titled Cursed Objects, is a post that makes your blood run cold. The post is from a user with the handle StaticMan1988, and it was written 14 years ago. The post is frantic, poorly punctuated, written in a single, breathless block of text. Static Man 1988 describes finding a VHS tape at a flea market in another state, hundreds of miles away from you. The case was a hand-drawn piece of cardboard. It was a low-budget puppet show from the 80s, featuring a bear, a rabbit, and an owl. He says he watched it and thought the audio was weird, like there were whispers buried in the mix. Then, he says, the puppet started whispering things to him, secrets from his childhood, a lie he had told his parents. He thought he was going crazy. He describes the same loop you fell into, rewinding and replaying it, the dawning horror, the paranoia. He mentions the human host, how his smile looked fake, how his eyes looked terrified. The description is so precise, so identical to your own experience, that you feel a shock of recognition, a strange and terrifying kinship with this anonymous person from the past. He is describing your tape, or, more accurately, another copy. This is a monumental discovery. It means your tape is not unique. It's not a singular, anomalous object. It's one of a series. Someone, somewhere, made copies. This documented account from Static Man 1988 is your first piece of external corroboration. You are not alone in this experience. Someone else has walked this path before you. This is both a comfort and a terror. A comfort, because it validates your sanity. A terror, because it implies a wider, more deliberate distribution of this haunting. It wasn't an accident. It feels like a design. The most chilling part of the post is the end. Static Man 1988 writes that the whispers started happening even when the tape wasn't playing. He heard them in his apartment. He says the whispers started to change. They weren't just revealing his past secrets. They were suggesting he'd do things. Small, mean things at first. Trip a coworker. Steal something from a store. He writes, "It feels like it's trying to make me like it. It wants me to be as mean and rotten as it is." The post ends with a desperate, stark warning. "I have to get rid of it. I'm going to burn it." If you ever find one of these tapes, do not watch it. Do not watch it. Destroy it. It's not a ghost. It's a seed, and it wants to plant itself in you. Get rid of it. After that final post, the user StaticMan1988 never posted on the forum again. This anecdote adds a horrifying new layer to the phenomenon. The idea of a seed. It reframes the haunting entirely. It's not just about revealing secrets for the sake of terror. It's about corruption. It's an entity that doesn't just want to scare you. It wants to change you, to mold you into something ugly. This aligns with certain theological concepts of malevolent spirits or demons, whose ultimate goal is not just to torment, but to tempt and corrupt the human soul, to lead it into darkness through its own free will. The whispers of past guilt are just the first step, a way to soften the ground, to make you vulnerable. The real goal is to make you create new guilt. The psychological weight of this is staggering. You are not just dealing with a passive echo or a tormented spirit. You are dealing with an active, malevolent intelligence with a goal. A deeply personal, deeply insidious goal. The whispers are a form of grooming. They isolate you with your own shame, making you feel like a bad person, and then they offer you a way to act on those bad impulses. The entity isn't just a voyeur of your past sins. It wants to be a collaborator in your future ones. What happened to Static Man 1988? The question hangs in the air, dark and unanswered. Did he destroy the tape? Did it work? Or did the whispers continue? Did the seed take root? The silence of his account after that final, desperate warning is profoundly ominous. You are now standing at the exact same crossroads he was at 14 years ago. You have the tape, you've heard the secrets. The whispers are bleeding into your reality, and you have just been warned about what comes next. You look at the VHS tape on your media console. It seems more sinister than ever before. It's not just a haunted object. It's a weapon, a piece of viral media in the most literal sense, a contagion designed to spread, not a story, but a sickness of the soul. You now have a choice. You can heed the warning from this ghost of the internet, this fellow victim from the past. You can take the tape and destroy it, hoping to end the connection. Or you can keep watching, You can see what it wants from you. The thought is horrifying, but a small, dark part of you is curious. What would it ask of you? What would it feel like to have that voice in your head, urging you on? The very fact that you are even entertaining this question tells you that the process may have already begun. The seed is there, and it's starting to sprout. The warning from Static Man 1988 rings in your ears for days. It's a seed. The idea has infected your thoughts, coloring every interaction you have with the tape and the presence it has unleashed in your home. You fight the urge to play it again. You try to heed the 14-year-old warning from a stranger on the internet. You even take the tape and put it in a box in the attic, hoping that out of sight will mean out of mind. But it doesn't work. The whispers don't stop. In fact, they seem to get more frequent, more insistent, as if annoyed by your attempt to ignore them. You hear your name whispered from the hallway. You hear faint, sibilant murmurs from the static of the radio. The seed has already been planted. Removing the planter doesn't stop the growth. After a week of this escalating psychological warfare, you break. A grim, fatalistic curiosity takes over. You have to know what comes next. You have to know what it wants. You retrieve the tape from the attic, the box feeling cold to the touch. You bring it back down to the living room, the familiar ritual now feeling like a final surrender. You slide it into the VCR. You press play. The show begins as it always does. The awful music, the jerky puppets, the smiling, terrified face of Mr. Jim. You sit through the whole thing, your body rigid with anticipation. The episode ends. The credits roll. The screen fades to black. This time, it's not Barnaby Bear who fades into view. It's Ricky Rabbit. His head is tilted at an unnatural angle, the clumsy black stitches on his torn ear looking like a fresh, jagged wound. He is silent for a long time, the black background pressing in. Then, the whisper comes. It's the same voice, but the tone has changed. It's no longer just revealing a secret. It's not just stating a fact. It's coaxing. It's persuasive. It has the cadence of a trusted friend giving you bad advice. And it says, Mark deserves it. The coffee. Just a little nudge. The words hit you like a physical blow. Mark, your coworker. A man you generally like, but with whom you have a friendly but competitive rivalry. Just yesterday, he got the promotion you were both quietly vying for. You were gracious about it. You shook his hand. You congratulated him. You smiled. But underneath, you felt a sting of resentment, a bitter taste of jealousy. You felt that he didn't deserve it as much as you did. A petty, ugly, but deeply human feeling. A secret feeling. And the whisper, it knows. It knows that secret jealousy. And it's offering you a way to act on it. The coffee, just a little nudge. It's suggesting that tomorrow morning, when you're both in the break room, you could accidentally bump his arm as he's holding his hot coffee. A small, malicious act, plausibly deniable. Something that would cause a minor inconvenience, a moment of pain and embarrassment. Something that would satisfy that petty, ugly part of you. This is the manipulation Static Man 1988 warned about. This is the entity moving from being a chronicler of past sins to an instigator of new ones. This specific type of supernatural influence, the subtle goading towards minor acts of cruelties, a recurring theme in certain folklore, particularly tales of imps or gremlins. These aren't grand, soul-selling demons. They are lesser, more intimate spirits of mischief and malice. They don't cause cataclysms. They cause milk to sour, tools to break, and people to stumble. Their power lies in their ability to exploit the small, everyday darkness within the human heart: jealousy, spite, resentment. They find a crack in your character and they whisper into it, trying to widen it until it breaks you. The story of the Lincoln Imp in England, a creature said to have been sent by Satan to cause trouble, tells of it tripping a bishop and smashing stained glass windows before being turned to stone by an angel. It was a creature of petty, chaotic malice. The psychological effect of this suggestion is profoundly disturbing. It's a violation of your moral autonomy. Something external is trying to influence your behavior, to hijack your will. The most terrifying part is that it feels tempting. Just for a second, the whisper gives voice to the darkest, most childish part of your brain, the part that wants to lash out when it's hurt. The whisper validates that impulse. It says, "Go on. It's okay. He deserves it." It's a siren song for the resentful. You feel a wave of self-disgust wash over you for even entertaining the thought. You would never do that. You are not that person. But the whisper implies that maybe you are. Maybe that person is just under the surface, waiting for a little nudge. The open question here is one of complicity. If you were to act on this suggestion, whose sin would it be? Yours or the entity's? It brings up ancient theological and philosophical debates about free will and temptation. Is the one who whispers the temptation as guilty as the one who acts upon it? The entity is clever. It's not asking you to commit some great evil. It's asking for a small compromise, a tiny concession to your worst impulses. It knows that's how it starts, a single drop of poison in the well. It wants you to be a co-conspirator in your own corruption. It wants to be able to whisper your next secret back to you, the secret of what you did to Mark, and know that this time it was a secret you shared. Ricky Rabbit stays on the screen, his head tilted, his expression a blank canvas onto which you project all of this malice. He is no longer a character. He is a symbol of the ugly suggestion he has just made. The tape has become a direct line to the most manipulative, most corrosive force you have ever encountered. It's not just a haunting anymore. It's a relationship. A toxic, parasitic relationship where your own moments of weakness are used as leverage against you. You eject the tape, your hand shaking with a mixture of fear and anger. The suggestion hangs in the air, a foul odor. You know you have to fight it. But you also know that tomorrow morning, when you see Mark in the break room with his cup of coffee, you will think of the whisper. And you will have to make a choice. The seed is not just sprouting, it's bearing fruit, and it's poisonous. The next morning at work is a nightmare. You actively avoid the break room, getting your coffee from a shop down the street. Every time you see Mark, smiling, oblivious, a fresh wave of guilt and shame washes over you. You didn't act on the whisper's suggestion, but the fact that it was planted in your head at all feels like a stain on your character. You feel complicit. The entity from the tape has successfully inserted itself into your daily life, turning a normal workplace interaction into a crucible of moral anxiety. You feel exhausted, not from work, but from the constant, vigilant effort of resisting a temptation that shouldn't even exist. The haunting has found a new, more insidious way to torment you, by making you afraid of yourself. That night, you can't bring yourself to play the tape. The thought of what new, malicious suggestion it might offer is too much to bear. But you also can't bring yourself to destroy it. You are caught in a state of paralysis. The whispers in the house have stopped, but the silence that replaces them is worse. It's a patient silence, a waiting silence. You know the entity is biding its time, letting its last suggestion fester in your mind. The focus of your fear shifts. It's no longer about what the tape will reveal, but what it will make you re-examine. The suggestion about Mark forces you to look back at the first secret, the one about the blue car, in a new, harsher light. You had always filed that memory away under childish mistakes, a minor transgression, a silly thing a 7-year-old would do. But now, filtered through the lens of the tape's malevolence, you see it differently. You are forced to confront the memory not as a passive event, but as a series of active choices. The choice to desire the car, the choice to take it, the choice to lie, the choice to watch your friend cry, the choice to hide the evidence. The whisper didn't just reveal the secret. It forced you to relive the guilt associated with it, a guilt you had long since buried and suppressed. It's stripping away the comfortable narratives you've built around your own past and showing you the uglier, unedited truth. You find yourself lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and the memory of Michael's crying face is as vivid as if it happened yesterday. You remember the feeling of the lie in your throat, a hot, metallic lump. You remember the cold satisfaction mixed with the hot shame. It wasn't just a mistake. It was your first real taste of deliberate cruelty. Your first conscious decision to cause another person pain for your own benefit, even if that benefit was just the possession of a small blue toy car. The puppet didn't just whisper, "the blue car." It whispered, "remember what you are capable of." This forced reevaluation of one's own past is a powerful and documented form of psychological manipulation, often used in cults or high-pressure interrogation. The subject is forced to confess to past sins, which are then reframed in the worst possible light. Minor mistakes are blown up into major moral failings. The goal is to break down the person's self-esteem, to make them feel unworthy and inherently flawed. Once their sense of self is shattered, they become more malleable, more susceptible to the manipulator's control. The entity on the tape is using this exact technique. It's not just a ghost. It's a master psychological manipulator, using your own history as its weapon. A particularly human reaction to this kind of intense, guilt-inducing introspection is a desperate need for absolution. You feel a sudden, overwhelming urge to find Michael, to call him up after all these years and confess, to apologize for a 30-year-old transgression that he has almost certainly forgotten. It's an irrational impulse, born of the fresh, stinging shame that the tape has resurrected. You want to undo it, to fix it, to wash the stain away, but you can't. The past is immutable. The entity knows this. It's not forcing you to confront your guilt so you can find peace. It's forcing you to confront it so you can understand that there is no escape. The guilt is a part of you. The darkness is a part of you. And it, the entity, is the only one who seems to understand that part of you. This leads to the most chilling question of all. Is the entity's goal purely malicious? Or is there a more complex, more twisted form of connection at play? By revealing your deepest secrets and most profound guilt, is it trying to forge a bond? Is it, in its own horrific way, trying to say, "I see you. I see the real you, the one you hide from everyone else, and I don't judge you for it. I encourage it"? Is this a form of grooming, not just for malicious acts, but for a kind of companionship? The ultimate abusive relationship, where the abuser isolates you by convincing you that they are the only one who truly understands your darkness. You don't play the tape, but its work is still being done. It has planted a seed of doubt, not just about your present actions, but about the very fabric of your past self. You are no longer sure of your own narrative. Were you a good kid who made a mistake? Or were you a bad kid who simply got better at hiding it? The tape, in its terrible wisdom, seems to argue for the latter. It's chipping away at your identity, one secret at a time. It's showing you that the person you think you are is just a carefully constructed facade, and it knows exactly what lies behind the wall. And the most terrifying part is, it's starting to make you believe it. The weight of the past, freshly excavated and poisoned by the tape's influence, becomes unbearable. The guilt over the blue car, the shame over the lie to Sarah, the temptation regarding Mark, it all swirls together into a toxic soup in your mind. You feel cornered, psycho-spiritually besieged. You know you can't move forward until you understand the origin of this torment. Your focus returns, with renewed intensity, to Mr. Jim. He is the first link in this chain of misery. His story holds the key. You had given up on finding him, with no last name to go on. But now you have a new piece of information. The location of the silent studio, WBRG-LP, and the year it went off the air, 1989. You return to your research, but this time you're not looking for the show. You're looking for a man. You start searching online newspaper archives, paying for access to digitized local papers from the town where the studio was located. You search for any mention of WBRG-LP around 1989. You find articles about its launch, its programming schedule, mostly community news and old movie reruns, and finally, a small, brief article about its sudden closure due to the owner's health issues. The owner's name is listed, but you're not looking for the owner. You're looking for the host. You comb through the archives, searching for any mention of a children's show host, anyone named Jim associated with the station. Nothing. It's like he was a ghost even then. You change tactics. You start searching local obituaries. It's a grim, morbid task. You search for any man named James or Jim who died in that town in the years following the station's closure, from 1990 onwards. The list is long and the process is slow, reading through the short, sad summaries of other people's lives. You read about grandfathers, fathers, and sons. And then you find him. It's an obituary from 1991, 2 years after the station closed. The deceased is a man named James Arthur Fincher, age 45. The photograph accompanying the text is black and white, slightly grainy, but it's him. The same mop of thinning hair, the same neat mustache. It's Mr. Jim, but his eyes are different. In this photo, they are not filled with the frantic, pleading terror you saw on the tape. They are just tired. Infinitely, profoundly tired. The obituary is standard fare. It lists his surviving family members, his place of birth, his hobbies. It mentions he was a local television personality, though it doesn't name the station or the show. It says he was a beloved member of the community, a kind man who loved children. It paints a picture of a perfectly normal, happy life. But then you get to the last line. It's a single sentence, likely written by a grieving family member trying to make sense of a tragedy. It's a line that, to any normal reader, would seem poetic, if a little strange. But to you, it's a direct, chilling confirmation of everything you've experienced. The line reads, "May he finally find peace from the voices that followed him home." The words leap off the page. The voices, plural, the ones that followed him home. It wasn't just in the studio. It was in his house, in his life. He was the first one. He was Static Man 1988 before the internet. He was you 30 years ago. He was trapped in the same nightmare. This documented line in his obituary is the Rosetta Stone for your haunting. It confirms that the phenomenon was not just some technical glitch or a strange legend. It was a real, personal, and ultimately fatal experience for at least one person. The owner of the station had a nervous breakdown. Mr. Jim, the host, is dead, and his family acknowledged, in the most public way they could, that he was tormented by voices. This discovery brings with it a profound and chilling humanization of the haunting. Before, Mr. Jim was a character, a victim you felt sorry for. Now, he is James Arthur Fincher. A real person, with a family, with a life that was stolen from him by the same entity that is now whispering in your ear. The tape is no longer just a creepy object. It's a piece of evidence in a man's slow destruction. The sadness you feel is overwhelming. You think of him, alone in his house in the years after the show was canceled, with no tape to turn off. The whispers just there, in the air, in his head, the puppet's voices perhaps, taunting him, goading him, revealing his secrets until he had none left. The question of what happened in that studio becomes darker and more urgent. What did they make him do? The puppets were his co-stars. He had to interact with them every day. He had to treat them like friends. What secrets did they tell him? What suggestions did they make? Did he resist? For how long? His death, just 2 years after the station closed, feels heavy with implication. The obituary doesn't list a cause of death, but the final, cryptic line speaks volumes. It speaks of a battle lost. The narrative of your own experience is suddenly dwarfed by the tragedy of his. Your fear, your paranoia, he felt it all, and likely 100 times worse. He was at the epicenter. You are just feeling the aftershocks. The revelation fills you with a sense of grim determination. You are not just fighting for your own sanity anymore. You are fighting for him. You are the sole inheritor of his story, the only one who knows the true meaning of that final line in his obituary. The entity didn't just stop with him. It created a recording of his torment, a viral vector, to ensure that the cycle would continue. It turned his personal hell into a franchise. And you are its latest audience. You look at the tape, and you feel a surge of anger, a cold, hard anger that momentarily pushes the fear aside. This ends with you. You will not be the next James Fincher. You have to find a way to break the loop, to silence the whispers for good, not just for you, but for the tired-eyed man in the grainy photograph who never could. The discovery of James Fincher's obituary and the chilling final line about the voices has armed you with a new, somber resolve. The fear is still present, a cold stone in your gut, but it's now mingled with anger and a sense of solemn duty. You feel a connection to this man you've never met, a shared victimhood that spans decades. The thought of destroying the tape now feels incomplete. Smashing it might save you, but it wouldn't answer the final question. It wouldn't honor the truth of what happened to him. You feel a pull to see it through to the end, to understand the full scope of this entity's knowledge, to face the final revelation it has in store for you. You need to know its endgame. You wait for a night when you feel strong, a night when the anger outweighs the fear. You sit down in front of the television, the VCR loaded and ready. This time, it doesn't feel like a surrender. It feels like a confrontation. You are not a passive victim anymore. You are a witness, determined to see the final act. You take a deep breath, and you press play. The show starts. The music. The puppets. Mr. Jim's tortured smile. It's all horribly familiar. But you watch it with new eyes, seeing not just a hostage, but James Fincher, a man whose ghost you are now trying to avenge. The episode plays out. Ricky Rabbit's selfish moment, the lesson on sharing. You watch, and you wait. The credits roll. The screen fades to black. The oppressive silence of the void returns. You brace yourself for a new puppet, a new suggestion, a new twisted game, but none of them appear. Instead, the screen remains black. For a full minute, there is nothing. Just the hum of the VCR. You start to think maybe that's it. Maybe the tape is finally spent. But then the whisper comes. It's different this time. It's not the dry, rasping voice of the puppets. It's a chorus, a layered, dissonant sound of multiple whispers, all speaking at once. It's the sound from the Whisper Station legend, the sound the boy heard through the static late at night. The chorus of voices is chaotic, unintelligible, a waterfall of sibilant sounds. And then one voice rises from the cacophony. It's clearer, calmer, and more terrifying than any of the others. It's a woman's voice, a gentle voice, the kind of voice that should be comforting. And it speaks a single, devastating sentence. It doesn't whisper a secret you've hidden from others. It whispers the secret you have hidden from yourself. It says, "The argument wasn't your fault, but you were relieved when he left." The words bypass your ears and hit you directly in the soul. You collapse inward, the air forced from your lungs. It's a psychic blow of unimaginable force. The memory it unlocks is one you have actively, systematically, and successfully repressed for years. Your father. The last time you saw him, you were a teenager. He and your mother were having a terrible fight. One of many. Their marriage was crumbling. This one was the worst, though. The shouting, the slammed doors. You hid in your room, listening, your stomach in knots. Then the shouting stopped. You heard the front door open and slam shut one last time. You heard the sound of his car starting, the tires squealing as he pulled away. He never came back. For years, your conscious narrative of that night has been simple. A story of sadness, of abandonment, of a child caught in the crossfire. But the whisper reveals the uglier, more complex truth you've never dared to acknowledge. The truth is, you were tired of the fighting. You were tired of the tension in the house, the walking on eggshells. And in that moment, when you heard his car drive away, underneath the fear and the sadness, there was another feeling. A small, dark, treacherous flicker of relief. The fighting would stop. The tension would be gone. The immediate source of the misery was leaving. It was a selfish, childish thought, born of emotional self-preservation. And the guilt it produced was so immense, so toxic, that your mind simply buried it. It built a wall around that feeling, plastered it over with a more acceptable narrative of pure victimhood. You didn't just hide the secret from others, you hid it from yourself. This is the entity's masterstroke. This is the ultimate violation. It has bypassed your ego, your defense mechanisms, your carefully constructed identity, and it has reached into your subconscious and pulled out the one truth you could not bear to face. This level of psychic intrusion goes beyond most documented paranormal accounts. This is not just reading a surface thought or a known secret. This is a complete psychological excavation. It's the kind of profound, unwanted insight that can shatter a person's foundational understanding of themselves. This psychological phenomenon, the active repression of trauma-associated guilt, is well documented. It's a survival mechanism. The mind hides what it cannot process. There are countless stories of people who have no memory of traumatic events, only for those memories to resurface years later in therapy or triggered by an unrelated event. What the tape has done is act as a brutally efficient, non-consensual therapist, forcing a repressed memory into the light without any of the framework or support needed to process it. It's a form of psychic violence. What is the nature of a self we cannot fully know? That is the profound, terrifying question this raises. If your own mind can keep such a profound secret from you, can you ever truly know yourself? Are we all just strangers to our own subconscious, living on the surface of a deep, dark ocean of memories and impulses we can't control? The entity on the tape seems to have free rein in that ocean. It can see the monsters in your depths that you yourself are blind to. The chorus of whispers fades away, leaving only the gentle, terrible woman's voice echoing in your mind. The screen stays black. You are left alone in the dark, shattered. The other secrets were about things you did. This one is about who you are. It's a fundamental stain on your character, a moment of profound selfishness at a time of family tragedy. The entity has shown you the worst part of yourself, the part you didn't even know existed. The confrontation you sought has happened, and you have lost. The entity didn't need to suggest a new sin. It just needed to show you the one you'd been carrying, unacknowledged all along. It has stripped you bare. You are no longer fighting an external monster. You are now locked in a room with the monster you've just discovered inside yourself. There is nowhere left to run. The final revelation leaves you hollowed out, a fragile shell of the person you were before you pressed play. You sit in the dark for a long time, the television now just a black mirror reflecting your own stunned face. The silence in the room is absolute, but your mind is screaming. The repressed memory, now unearthed, plays on a loop, vivid and agonizing. The sound of the shouting, the slam of the door, that treacherous secret feeling of relief. The entity has done its work. It has shown you its power, its reach. It has proven that no corner of your soul is safe from its sight. You are completely, utterly exposed. A new feeling begins to surface, rising from the ashes of your shattered self-perception. It's not fear, not anger, not sadness. It's a cold, primal, animalistic panic. The panic of a trapped animal that will do anything to escape. The source of this torment, the physical conduit for all this misery, is sitting right there in the VCR. The tape, this black plastic rectangle, has been the instrument of your psychological destruction. It brought James Fincher's voices into your home. It whispered your sins. It tempted you toward malice. It unearthed the truth you were never meant to face. It is a vessel of pure poison. You lurch forward, your movements clumsy, frantic. You jab the eject button on the VCR. The machine whirs and spits the tape out with a clunk. You snatch it from the tray, your hand closing around it. It feels warm, almost alive. You can't have it in your house for one more second. You stumble out of the living room, through the kitchen, and wrench open the back door. The cool night air hits your face but does nothing to quell the fire of panic in your chest. You march out into your backyard, the wet grass cold under your feet. You have no plan, only a desperate, overwhelming need for annihilation. You need to unmake this thing. You throw the tape down on the patio stones. It lands with a cheap plastic clatter. For a moment you just stare at it. The hand-drawn cover, the smiling, malevolent puppets. They seem to be mocking you. Even now, this is not enough. You go to your garage, your hands shaking as you search for a tool. You find a hammer. It feels heavy and solid in your hand, a weapon of righteous fury. You return to the patio. You raise the hammer high above your head, and you bring it down. The first blow cracks the plastic casing, a spider web of fractures spreading from the point of impact. It's a deeply satisfying sound. You strike it again, and again, and again, your controlled movements giving way to a frenzied, desperate rage. You are not just breaking a piece of plastic. You are fighting back. You are attacking the voice, the whispers, the entity itself. You are smashing the conduit. Shards of black plastic fly across the patio. You keep hitting it until the casing is completely obliterated, revealing the spools of tape within. You pry them out. The magnetic tape, the thin brown ribbon that has held so much misery, unspools across the stones like the guts of some mechanical serpent. But even this isn't enough. Static Man 1988's warning echoes in your mind. Burn it. You gather the tangled mess of tape and the plastic shards. You carry them to the small, metal fire pit in the corner of your yard. You stuff the ribbon inside, douse it with lighter fluid, and with a trembling hand, you light a match. The flame catches with a sudden whoosh. The plastic casing melts and curls, releasing a thick, acrid black smoke that stings your eyes and throat. The magnetic tape shrivels and burns, turning from brown to black to ash. You watch it burn, your panic slowly, gradually, being replaced by a grim, exhausted sense of finality. You are destroying the evidence. You are cauterizing the wound. You are performing an exorcism by fire. This act of destruction is a deeply human, almost ritualistic response to a cursed or haunted object. Throughout history and across cultures, fire has been seen as a purifying force, a way to not only physically destroy an object but to cleanse its spiritual taint. There are countless historical accounts of communities burning the possessions of so-called witches, or of individuals destroying objects they believe to be cursed, from jewelry to furniture. It is a visceral, definitive act of severing ties, a declaration of war against the unseen. By burning the tape, you are engaging in one of the oldest forms of spiritual warfare. As the last of the tape turns to glowing embers, a profound silence settles over you. It's not the charged, watchful silence you've grown used to. It's a true silence, an empty silence. The connection feels severed. The ever-present background hum of dread in your mind has ceased. It's like a noisy appliance has been unplugged. For the first time in weeks, you feel truly alone in your own head. The relief is immense, a physical weight lifting from your shoulders. It's over. You've won. But as you stand there in the dark, watching the last embers die out, a new, unsettling thought begins to creep in. The silence feels empty, yes, but it also feels intelligent. It feels like the silence of something that has been banished, but is now watching you from a distance. The whispers are gone, but the listener remains. Did you destroy the entity? Or did you just destroy its phone? You have hung up the call, but does the caller still know your number? The question lingers in the smoke-filled air. You have destroyed the tape, but the memories it unearthed are now a permanent part of your conscious mind. The damage has been done. The secrets are out. The haunting has changed you. You have silenced the whispers, but what about the echoes they've left behind? You turn and walk back into your quiet, empty house, and you realize the battle may be over, but the war for your own peace of mind has only just begun. The days and weeks following the destruction of the tape are defined by the new silence. It's a strange, hollow quiet that you have to learn to live with. At first, it's a blessing, a sweet relief after the constant psychological noise of the whispers. You revel in the simple, mundane sounds of your life, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant traffic, the chirping of birds outside your window. These sounds are no longer canvases for phantom voices, they are just sounds. The oppressive sense of being watched has faded. You can walk through your house without feeling like an intruder. You can lie in bed at night, and the fan is just a fan. The immediate, active phase of the haunting is over. You have survived. But the silence is not peace. The experience has left a permanent scar on your psyche, a fundamental alteration in the way you perceive the world and yourself. You find that you can no longer fully trust the quiet. Sometimes, in a moment of deep stillness, a phantom echo of the whispers will brush against the edge of your hearing, a neurological ghost limb. You'll freeze, your blood running cold, straining to listen, only to find nothing there. It's the psychic equivalent of tinnitus, a ringing in the soul left behind by a traumatic exposure. The entity may be gone, but it has taught your own brain how to mimic its tactics. Your own mind has learned to haunt you. Your relationship with memory is irrevocably broken. Before, your past was a landscape you could visit, some parts pleasant, some parts regrettable, but all of it knowable. Now, it feels like a treacherous, alien territory. The revelation about your father, the secret you kept from yourself, has created a deep and abiding distrust of your own mind. What other dark truths are buried in your subconscious, waiting for a trigger? What other comfortable narratives are just walls built to hide ugly realities? You find yourself questioning your own motives, your own feelings. The authenticity of your own identity has been called into question. You feel like a stranger in your own skin, and the ghost of James Fincher feels closer than ever. You understand now the profound tiredness in his eyes. It's the exhaustion that comes from fighting a war on two fronts, against the entity and against yourself. This lingering psychological impact, a kind of post-traumatic spiritual disorder, is the true legacy of such an experience. It's not about flickering lights or moving objects. It's about the deep internal restructuring of a person's reality. There are modern accounts from people who have engaged with paranormal phenomena, whether through Ouija boards, intense investigation, or accidental encounters, who report long-term effects like chronic anxiety, depression, and a persistent feeling of being spiritually vulnerable or ungrounded. They speak of a permanent change in their perception, as if a filter has been removed from their eyes, leaving them unable to unsee the cracks in the mundane world. They are left with the hauntings echo. The puppets, Barnaby Bear, Ricky Rabbit, Professor Hoot, their images are burned into your mind. You see them in your dreams. They don't speak anymore. They just stare, their mismatched eyes and stitched smiles a permanent symbol of the violation you endured. They are the avatars of the entity, the friendly faces it wore to deliver its poison. You can never see a child's puppet show again without a flicker of that same cold dread. They have become icons of a deeply personal terror. The entity's final, lingering curse is to have tainted a symbol of innocence, turning it into a trigger for your trauma. So what was it? What did you fight in your quiet living room and destroy in your fiery backyard? Was it the ghost of someone involved in the show's creation? The tormented owner, perhaps, or even James Fincher himself, twisted into a malevolent echo? Or was it something older, something inhuman, that was drawn to the negative energy of that silent studio and used the show as a vessel? An ancient, parasitic consciousness that feeds on guilt and shame? You will never know. The question remains unanswered, a permanent fixture in the architecture of your new reality. Does it matter what it was? Or does it only matter that it existed and that you survived it? You choose to believe the latter. It's the only way to move forward, the only way to live in the silence. The haunting has ended, but its legacy is the quiet, constant work of putting yourself back together, knowing that some pieces will never fit the same way again. The whispers are gone, but you will be listening for them for the rest of your life. The silence that follows an encounter like this is a presence in itself. It's not the absence of noise, but the palpable quiet left behind when a malevolent intelligence has finally turned its attention elsewhere. It's the silence of the room after the interrogator has left, a space that still holds the echo of pain and the memory of violation. You find yourself learning to live in this new quiet, rebuilding the walls of your own mind, but you know they will never be as strong as they were before. The cracks will always be there, a testament to the storm they weathered. The story of the whispering puppets, of Mr. Jim and the Silent Studio, becomes a secret you must now keep, a piece of your personal history as dark and guarded as any of the secrets the tape revealed to you. It's a closed loop. The entity that fed on secrets has turned you into a keeper of one of the deepest secrets of all, that the world is thinner than we think, that our minds are not our own, and that some forgotten things are desperate to be remembered. The experience has left you with a permanent sensitivity, a new awareness of the static between the words, the darkness in the pauses. You have stood at the edge of the void, and it has whispered your name. And even though you have stepped back, part of you will always be there, listening to the silence forever changed by the echoes of what you heard.